Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today in our What's New webinar. Before we dig in, I wanted to just take a quick moment to introduce myself. I'm Shauna Wolverton, and I am the new Chief Product Officer here at Benchling. I have always had a deep fascination with biology, and I'm super excited to bring my decades of enterprise software experience to the challenges and opportunities of this space. So going forward, we're going to do one of these every quarter, a little roundup of everything the product team has been up to here at Benchling. We're going to have a great website. You can go ahead and scan the QR code. It's also in the Docs tab here on the platform. Same link, new, fresh updates every quarter. And we know you're all very busy, so we're going to keep this tight and hopefully fun and interactive. Just an hour today to give you this update, but we're going to have some polls and Q&A, live demos. So please be encouraged and feel free to participate throughout the session. We take a quick look at our agenda today. We're going to first share the capabilities that we have around a new modern LIMS for biology teams. And we're going to give you a great demo of that. And then we're going to talk about Benchling Studies, which is a new Benchling product that brings in vivo study management right into the Benchling R&D Cloud. And finally, we're going to do some highlights of some of the new platform functionality that really helps enable our customers to do with large-scale data management, including some great new stuff around search and permissions. And then we're going to close with Q&A. So you'll see there on the platform that there is a Q&A tab. So please go ahead and add any questions throughout the session. And at the end, we'll go ahead and take some of those. Even if you don't have a question, you can go ahead and vote up other folks once you're in there. So with that, we have a great lineup today of speakers from across our organization, experts in product and solutions and customer experience. And actually, let's just dive in on our first topic, which is biology's modern LIMS. And I may be new to Benchling, but as I've spent time with customers over the last few months, I have constantly heard that we're all still struggling with really sharing the important information and finding the scientific and operational data we need to do great collaboration. And while I am new, Ashoka, our product manager for our development products, is clearly not in, and he's been having these great conversations with customers for a while. Ashoka, tell us a little bit about what you've learned.
Thank you, Shauna. You're right. I've spent a lot of time talking with our customers about this one-on-one, and it's really clear to me that collaboration and data sharing are vitally important to powering work across research and development and within teams. We wanted to be sure to tackle this core challenge, so we surveyed over 600 customers, and here's what we learned. We found that it takes, on average, 3 to 5 touch points to move experiment and sample data from team to team. 3 to 5. So that doesn't just slow down data sharing, it hinders productivity across teams, increases manual work, and makes it harder for your teams to stay aligned, ultimately delaying time to next milestone. I've heard this challenge time and time again, which is why improving data sharing, collaboration, and data access has been a really key focus of mine at Benchling. So why is collaboration and data sharing so difficult for many organizations? While there are countless tools that can support different facets of research and development work, there has never really been a unified solution that connects work and data across teams. So many companies have built their own homegrown tools, which are really fitted to their needs. But this can become extremely burdensome for IT to maintain, update, and change. Some use collaboration tools like Airtable and Asana and more, which are great for lightweight task and project management, but they're not scientifically aware and they're disconnected from the system of record for all your scientific data. Many have also relied on legacy LIMS solutions, which have promised to unify disparate tools into a central location, but typically only support one main workflow or team, thereby adding to an already complex web of systems. So to make this more interactive, let's talk about some of the challenges that you all are having and see which resonate with you. So on the right, you should see an icon for polls, and Whether you're producing biomolecules or planning too soon, what are some of the big challenges that you face? Is it missing context from upstream activities, the time and resources associated in managing handoffs between teams? Is it compliance requirements around GLP or GMP, consistent tracking of samples, materials, and processes, or getting key insights on sample and program performance? Great. So we have a kind of even split between all of the above. I think consistent tracking is currently in the lead, also followed by the time and resources involved in handoffs across systems. All right. So let's dig into kind of how we see these challenges where existing LIMS systems are inadequate relative to these needs. So first, most legacy LIMS were designed to manage small molecules, and these solutions struggle to handle large molecule work. We believe teams need a modern solution that's built for biological design, testing, and production. Second, LIMS are usually deployed into specific sites or to specific teams, but do not facilitate collaboration or generate a common data set across teams. A modern solution can be shared across scientists in research, bioprocess development, bioanalytical development, so that everyone can access relevant information. As a result, collaboration becomes a more natural, integrated part of your workflows. We also find that customers' biggest issue with their LIMS is that they're too brittle. As processes inevitably evolve over time, teams who want to adjust their processes and their LIMS find it overwhelmingly slow and difficult to do so within a very rigid technology. Modern solutions are able to be adaptable and support process changes and procedures as your science evolves over time while remaining secure and compliant. And then lastly, we hear a lot from IT leaders that they spend an inordinate amount of time maintaining legacy systems, creating workarounds, and adapting for changing needs and disconnected data. A modern solution allows IT teams to focus on strategic advanced tech initiatives rather than patching and repairing old and disconnected systems. These challenges and the promise of a modern connected solution inspired us to develop LIMS capabilities within Benchling that meet the needs of biology teams. And with that, I'm excited to share with you a new category functionality within Benchling, which is the modern LIMS for biology. This modern, connected, and adaptable solution redefined processes traditionally tracked in LIMS. Teams can design, test, and produce complex biomolecules in a unified collaborative effort. And unlike legacy LIMS, the Benchling R&D Cloud offers continual product innovation to keep pace with evolving processes and evolving science. Now, teams can manage complex multi-step and cross-functional processes within our workflow system, track data modifications in regulated environments, and trace samples directly within the Benchling notebook. Let's take a minute to see how different teams can use LIMS. So this modern LIMS can support a variety of use cases, and the solution is particularly useful for research or development teams seeking to optimize handoffs between teams, streamline and connect sample management across the life cycle, working efficiently while ensuring compliance and data integrity, sharing scientific and operational insights, and managing a modern and powerful tech ecosystem. So we're going to come back to another poll where we want to understand of all the LIMS use cases listed, which of these most closely align with your needs and goals? So again, you'll kind of go over to the poll tab and we'll kind of watch the results as they come in. So the first is tracking samples, kind of a very standard LIMS use case, ensuring compliance and data integrity, which could be for more regulated and compliant environments, ensuring handoffs across teams, sharing scientific and operational data, managing a connected tech ecosystem for all of the systems that you use, develop, and maintain, or multiple needs from the above options. Right. We have a pretty clear winner here where, it seems that the majority of folks, 70% or more, have multiple needs that pertain to their companies or teams, which also tracks with what we're seeing in Benchling. It's not just one use case shoved into one team. It's really how teams work together across research and development. Right. So in a minute, we're going to actually get a demo to see all of these capabilities, but let me just give you an overview to highlight the various applications within Benchling's R&D Cloud and call attentions to new features and new capabilities. So for those of you who already use Benchling, these are features that are part of applications that you already have. So this is net new functionality, part of our existing platform. And for those of you new to Benchling, these capabilities will be included in the products that you purchase. So the first capability is Benchling workflows. This makes it easier to plan and execute complex processes amongst teams. And recently we released a new flowchart functionality so teams can manage complex processes that span multiple steps, teams, and users. This will be really useful for study management, process management and execution, biologic material production, sample and inventory distribution as well. So if you're currently a Workflows customers, this is automatically available to you right now. Benchling's registry, notebook, and inventory applications help manage samples, track experiments, and execute work. Some of the recent features that we released, such as inventory tables, allow scientists to more easily track and utilize the samples, reagents, or raw materials as they execute their work. So not only can you track the materials that you have, but also consume and utilize them and associate them with the experimental context that they have. We've added more robust compliance and control features to our existing platform, making our audit logs easier to read, as well as adding controls when people go back and modify data after the fact. And lastly, with Benchling Insights, teams can optimize operational and scientific performance with reporting and dashboards sitting on top of this platform of structured data. So let's take a look at this modern LIMS solution in action and dive into the new features like flowcharts and inventory tables. So over to you, Chelsea.
So as Ashoka said, I'm going to be giving a demonstration of a peek into our ability to support the modern LIMS use case. You can see here that I've already logged into Benchling. And the way we really navigate through Benchling is our icons on the side of my screen here. You can see that I've already clicked into our workflows application, which brings me to this dashboard that allows me to see an overview of progress across multiple different workflows and processes within my teams, within my company. I can see here I can track status of different tasks and handoffs within each of those processes. As a user, I can use this dashboard to also easily see any work that I'm responsible for. I can see that I've clicked into a view of my pending tasks, and here I can see I have a few tasks related to checking off on sample receipts for a few samples. Right from my dashboard, I can see information on these particular tasks and that they're pending. I can see a link into information around the particular samples that I need to complete these tasks for. And since this is a pretty simple example of tasks that I need to complete where I can just directly check off on receiving these samples, I can go ahead and select them and click execute from my dashboard. And Benchling will bring up this modal to be able to directly execute on these tasks here. I can see now that this view shows me a list of the tasks. It shows me a reference into the sample vial barcode and information around the sample itself. In this case, these are all plasmid lots. I can see comments sent to me here that I need to verify the vial barcodes for each of these samples. And I can see as I go in to complete this task, I can give any of my own comments as a part of this execution. Once I've completed these, I can go ahead and click continue. And I can see as I'm going through these steps that Benchling is automatically updating the status of my tasks. So now that I've completed these tasks, it notifies that, and I can click submit. And now I can see that these have fully been completed and removed from the work that I need to complete. So that's an example of kind of simple direct tasks that I can easily execute within Benchling. But as we know, most work scientists are doing is usually in the context of a larger process. So let's take a look at an example of a workflow here. I can see the one that I pulled up is an example of cell line development flow, and we'll click into one of these to get more detail. I can see that I've accessed this cell line development process here. And on the left-hand side of my screen, it gives me information specifically around the tasks and samples involved for this particular process of cell line development. I can also see here on the right-hand side of my screen that I have this visual flowchart that allows me to see and track all of the steps, actions, tasks, and handoffs that are a part of this larger process. I can see here at each stage of the process, I'm able to track progress on my tasks at a high level. And I can click into a particular step in the process. In this case, let's take a look in more detail at the transfection step to view more information. I can see now that I'm in the transfection step, I can see all of my tasks associated with this particular step that have been handed off to me or other individuals responsible for this work. I can see that I have a couple completed tasks here that have gone through this step, and I have a couple that are in work in progress. Now, this particular step requires, more of a protocol and a number of different things that I need to do in order to execute on this transfection here. So I can see a link into my entry where I'm completing this work. Since it's in progress, I already have this entry associated. So we'll go ahead and click into that and view this in more detail. So now I can see that I have this particular template that's going to walk me through all of the work that I need to do at this transfection step. I can see at the top of my screen here, I have a list of all the tasks. So easily showing me reference into those tasks and samples that have been handed to me for this part of the process. In this case, I can see a link into the vials of my physical plasmid lots. I can see specifically the plasmid lots and host cells that I'm working with. I can also see here that I have this lookup table that allows me to gain information and insights into specific samples or containers within Benchling here. So in this case, say I want to pull some more information on the plasmid lots that I'm working with, I could go ahead and place them in my lookup table, and I can see that Benchling surfaces for me key information around the specific container that this exists in, the volume of the container, and then I can also see a view into the specific plasmid that we're working with, and all the way down to the lineage of the domains or genes that are being expressed here. So I can kind of see here how this is fully connected from start to finish and from all of my teams working within Benchling. Next, I can also see as I go through the work that I'm doing, I can use this new inventory table to update my volumes and containers that I'm working with. Again, in this case, I'm working with these plasmid lots in my vials for my transfection. And as I go through and maybe I am deducting volume or using that volume, I can go ahead and easily update that information directly in my inventory table within my template and my entry here. And it makes it really easy for me to record that information of material, samples, and reagents being used throughout my process and the work that I'm doing. As I continue through my work here and complete my transfection, I can record all of that information, and we can see here that we end up with our newly transfected cell lines. I can see that at the end of my template here, I can link that information in as an output, closing the loop on this particular step of the process and completing that work. Once I've connected that as an output, Benchling automatically moves those tasks into completed for me. And I can see if we click back into our full workflow here, going back to our cell line development workflow, I can see that it automatically propagates those completed tasks to the next stage of the process, in this case, selection. So then the next responsible party can go ahead and have those samples or tasks passed on to them and begin the work that they need to do. So you can see here within our workflow, the ability to visualize a particular process through this visual flowchart here. I can track all of my progress around tasks and handoffs within that process. But I also have the ability in Benchling to kind of take a higher level view, leveraging my insights dashboards to look at more operational information around my tasks that are being completed across different processes. So if I go ahead and look at this particular dashboard here, I can see a view of things like tasks completed by month. I can see information around tasks by status, all giving me that high level view of information across my processes. I can also highlight things like failed or canceled tasks. So if I want to drill into things that failed, I can easily see information by accessing directly through a dashboard like this. I'll go ahead and wrap up this piece of the demo with a peek into some of the capabilities that our team is currently working on here. Here you can see that I've clicked into this flowchart builder, where I'm actually able to easily drag and drop different stages of process onto this canvas to be able to build out on the workflows and processes within my teams and business. This allows scientists to easily iterate on process, to easily add new processes as you're designing and building your specific science that you're working on. And it's all built on top of all of the capabilities that you just saw. So it's ultimately going to allow for that next level of being able to support the design of your new science that you're working on. Everything you just saw is available currently if you're using Benchling. You can take advantage of these capabilities through the notebook, registry, inventory, and workflows applications. If you're not currently using Benchling, please feel free to reach out to us, and we would be happy to give you a more in-depth, detailed demo. We also have some more information included in the Docs tab if you'd like to read up on the Benchling workflows capabilities or support for the LIMS capabilities. Go ahead and access that on the Docs tab. And also, please continue to add any questions that you may have around this section or anything within the Q&A tab, and we'll make sure to cover those at the end of the session. Thanks so much. Shana, back to you.
All right. Thanks, Ashoka and Chelsea. That was an amazing demo. I love the visual flow builder. That's going to be great for teams in dynamic environments. But as we're developing out more automation around all these sort of handoffs and automating redundant tasks, there's a huge opportunity for us to connect parts of the organization that have been historically isolated. And it's my understanding that it's really what inspired Chris and the studies team to build a new solution to really connect in vivo study management. What can you tell us about that, Chris?
Thanks, Shauna. Yeah, we're really excited to talk with you all today about a new Benchling offering, Benchling Studies. As you said, it's really great to see how so many aspects of the drug development process have been digitized over the past decade. But unfortunately, in vivo study management has historically lagged behind these other areas. In fact, the vast majority of studies and the associated data are still being managed in spreadsheets and shared via email. We also commonly see standalone systems being used for the likes of colony management, documentation, and downstream bioanalysis. This disconnected approach is not fit for purpose and is partially responsible for the unacceptably high rates of data error and hindered collaboration. Modern drug development requires in vivo programs to be connected throughout R&D, and this includes research teams testing therapeutic efficacy across a range of different disease models, but also different teams or development teams, assessing both safety and toxicology parameters for tomorrow's medicines. So with that said, let's just pause for another quick poll to understand what challenges this group currently faces with the studies that they're running today. If you go across to the polls tab again, this should be the third on the list. So which of the following challenges would you say is most pressing? Data centralization and collaboration, time inefficiency due to laborious animal-related tasks, documenting uniform metrics and clinical observations across studies, ensuring unbiased randomization, or data transcription errors between paper and the system tools or softwares that you use today. I think looking at Ashoka's polls, we maybe should have had the sixth option here, which is a little bit of everything, because that would have been my own personal experience. So it looks like data centralization and collaboration is going to be the clear winner, but we'll let it run for another 10 seconds or so. Yeah, so it really looks like data centralization and collaboration, and then closely followed by data transcription errors between paper and the system tools and softwares that we use. I think we've all experienced having to copy and paste transpose across different data analysis platforms. But this is a large part of the reason why we're delighted to introduce the newest addition to the Benchling R&D Cloud, which is studies. Studies is a modern software application to help teams manage in vivo experiments, accelerating in vivo study startup and capturing accurate in-life data. With studies, R&D teams can get their in vivo experiments up and running as quickly and as accurately as possible with the use of intelligent and reusable study designs. And automated data capture reduces manual entry and those transcription errors for in vivo teams across the industry. Importantly, Benchling Studies is directly connected into the Benchling R&D Cloud, facilitating data visibility and collaboration between in vivo teams and the rest of R&D. And it's important to say, like other Benchling applications, such as Notebook and Registry, Benchling Studies is a new product offering that requires additional paid licenses. At the end of this section, we'll share some more information on how you can learn more about this new offering. Now, let's take a look at how Studies fits into the Benchling R&D Cloud. With the addition of Studies, the Benchling R&D Cloud connects study management to your larger R&D workflows. Now, teams can design and plan experiments in both Benchling Notebook and the Studies application before study startup, execution, and even sample collection take place within Studies itself. After sample collection, these data points are transferred to Registry, bringing important study results together with the rest of your R&D data. Finally, teams can conduct important and useful bioanalysis on these samples in Benchling workflows, insights, or Notebook, depending on your preference, processes, or needs. In a minute, Warren will walk you through a demo of Benchling Studies, but before he does, I wanted to quickly highlight some key functionality within the Benchling Studies application that teams can take advantage of today. Specifically designed for in vivo teams, Studies provides configurable templates that facilitate reproducible protocols and data models. We've also recently introduced colony management functionality that lets you assign custom animal information, manage your cages, and even print custom cage labels. Next is automatic data collection. Studies collects data in real time via direct integration with commonly used devices, such as RFID scanners for identifying animals, balances, and even calipers. We also have experience working with more complex equipment, such as micro-CT scanners, BLI imagers, or some of the more novel tumor scanning devices. This automated method is crucial to ensure experimental integrity by eliminating transcription and user errors. Teams can also configure clinical observations with custom scoring systems in a push that we made to make it as easy as possible to track animal welfare and identify and resolve potential issues as early as possible. Finally, Studies leverages multi-parameter randomization, which eliminates unconscious bias and sets your study up to generate meaningful data for informing future direction with a high degree of confidence. Now, Warren will walk you through a demo of Benchling Studies and highlight these capabilities. Over to you, Warren.
So here I've logged into the Studies platform utilizing my modern web browser, and it's immediately taken me to my Studies dashboard, where I can see all of my active, drafted, and completed studies, for example. Now, one of the main challenges that many people brought out today was really being able to centralize all of the different pieces of information that go into an animal study. Here with Studies, you simply need to go into an individual study, and you can see all of the different pieces of information tied to it, whether that's various attachments such as IACUC protocols, or the cages from your colony that are linked to the study, or even the animals there within. Now here on our animal dashboard, we not only see where the animals are housed, but we see the most recent metrics that have been captured against these animals. in this case, tumor volume and weight, and how these have changed relative to the first observation that was made. One thing that you will notice, however, is that these animals are not tied to a study group. Now, this is an area that also frequently causes issues for organizations because they want to ensure that they have an unbiased and standardized method to randomize animals. Here, we can simply select all of the necessary animals and then leverage our inbuilt randomization tool. Now, because I selected more animals than I actually need, the first step we're going to do is exclude some of those animals. We can decide on what parameter we'd like to exclude animals, and we're just going to stick with tumor volume here. And we can also see then which animals will be included versus excluded, and if necessary, override that. Then we can then decide which metrics we would like to randomize these animals on, as well as attributes. And in this case, we'll randomize on both tumor volume and weight, but we can have up to 3 different metrics. Then we can now see the standard variation and mean for each of these randomized groups, and even see which animals will be part of that. This looks great to me, so let's finish up the process. Now, if we go back to our animals dashboard, we can see these animals have now been assigned with an unbiased randomization method. Also, we can very easily now re-cage these animals, and that information will be propagated throughout the platform, including the colony management system, saving you time and making these processes efficient. Now that we've seen how we can centralize all this information, the next thing to really talk about is these laborious animal-related tasks that need to be conducted. Now, they're often very tedious because they not only involve a large number of animals, but also a large amount of different equipment. Now, studies can help to automate and streamline these workflows, and the best way to show you that is with a video. So here in our video, what you'll see is that a scientist is scanning a mouse using an RFID chip, which allows for its identification directly in the platform, is then utilizing Bluetooth calipers in order to measure the dimensions of that tumor, and then is weighing the animal. And as you can see, all of this information is immediately being captured in the platform itself, allowing for precise hands-free capture of this information. And this not only streamlines your work, but reduces time inefficiencies by up to 33%. Now, not only does this process allow for you to be able to capture measurements against the animals, we can use it to streamline capturing of samples, clinical observations, as well as treating those animals with various different materials. Now, the next question that you might have is, how do we link all this information back to the study? Well, we do this in a couple of different ways. Firstly, if we go to our graph section, we can see the various metrics that have been collected over time in a graphical format. And these graphs generate in real time as measurements come in. And in this case, we can choose between tumor volume or weight. We not only can see the graph, but underneath it, all of the metrics that have been used to generate it. We also generate Kaplan-Meier survival curves, for example, so you can keep track on the survival of your mice very closely. But not only are we tracking this at a studies level, we're also tying it back to the animals individually. Now, on this animals dashboard, you will see that some alerts have arisen. Let's say that when a tumor volume reaches a certain size, that acts as an endpoint for you. You don't want to realize that 3 weeks down the line. So here, the minute that metric is inserted and meets that critical level, you will be immediately notified in the platform so that you know how to respond. Additionally, if we travel into that animal, we not only see the complete overview of all information tracked against them, but all of the different metrics that have been captured over time. And we can dig deeper into those and see who collected it, as well as the various variables that have been used to generate this overall tumor volume. But in addition to metrics, we are capturing various observations against these animals. And as Chris pointed out, we can have a grading scale that you can use and provide grading information to ensure that all of your different users are leveraging the same scale to ensure that your observations can be compared not only within studies, but between studies. We also track all the dosages directly against the animals, as well as the samples. Now, because studies is part of the Benchling family, we've actually built out an integration that can push samples that are generated and collected in the studies platform into Benchling. So here we're just collecting a tumor sample, and we're going to say that it weighs 5 milligrams. We can maybe leave a note to say that it isn't very necrotic. Now, once the sample has been generated, you will see that it automatically receives a unique ID within the studies platform. But what's happening in the background is this is now being pushed through into the Benchling's platform. So let me open that up where I have my robust search tool opened up, where I'm searching for tumor samples linked to a particular study. So all I'm going to do is refresh my screen quickly. And here you will see that that sample that we just created has been pushed into the Benchling registry. Not only do you see the study's unique ID that was generated, but also the type of sample, the comment, as well as the metrics that were associated with that sample. But in addition, we've captured the mouse, the study group, and the study. And these are all tracked and traced together, allowing for full context when those downstream teams now need to use the sample. Now, once these samples have been pushed into Benchling, you can easily select those various samples and send them to downstream processes, as Chelsea walked you through earlier. Once you've done all of those bioassay processes, we can now glean insights into the works that have been done using our analytical tools. And we can leverage this at the sample level, animal level, or even the study level to really be able to see how our studies are going in real time. So here we've seen how studies can help to not only centralize all of your information, but also reduce time inefficiencies, as well as streamlining collaboration and various processes within your organization. So with that, let's jump back into the slides. So what you saw is part of our new product offering, Benchling Studies. We are happy to demo this functionality to you live and help you decide whether it's the right solution for your team. You can request a demonstration of this new capability utilizing the second link in the demo section. For customers who are currently using other Benchling products, you can reach out to your Benchling representative. We've also linked the study's product brief in the docs section on the right-hand bar for your reference. So great, back to you, Shauna.
Thanks, Warren. Absolutely great demo. Great to see all of that purpose-built studies functionality with all of that data integrating right back into the R&D cloud. In our last section, we're going to highlight some of the powerful new functionality in the Benchling platform that improves access management and using high-quality data at scale. Caitlin, take it away.
All right, thank you, Shauna. So as Shauna mentioned, we've made some vast improvements to large-scale data management to improve Benchling's underlying data foundation. I'm really excited to talk through some new Benchling features that are now part of the Benchling platform, which you can take advantage of today. So these include faster data access with scalable search functionality, improved data storage for large-scale results, and more granular user permissions to enhance control and simplify the user experience. Then Zach's going to walk through a quick demo of these new features to demonstrate just how powerful this functionality is. So finding the data you need quickly is crucial for collaborating with your team, analyzing outcomes, and moving your science forward, which is why we've invested in improving search speed in Benchling. This release, we added increasingly powerful search functionality, drastically accelerating searches even within the largest data sets. Now teams can quickly find and use the data they need in less than a second, whether they're searching through dozens of records or hundreds of millions. Many of our customers are processing and storing large amounts of data, even upwards of millions to billions of data points. They really need a system that can handle the volume of data while providing a seamless and fast user experience. Storing lots of data is no use if the system is slow and cumbersome to use. So with improved data storage in Benchling, teams can ingest large volumes of results up to 7 times faster. In addition, teams can also scale data storage to billions of results while increasing throughput and accelerating work. So you're generating more data in Benchling, whether that means running a new experiment or moving your samples from research to development, you can be confident that storing and ingesting this information will be fast, easy, and secure. And while finding, storing, and accessing this data is vital to your work, it's just as important that teams can control who has access to this information. So we centralized user permissions in a single location so admins can quickly access and manage these permissions at a more granular level. So in addition to setting permissions for things like folders, projects, teams, and orgs, which you can already do, admins can also manage access to run and result schemas. So for organizations, this functionality is great for controlling who has access to what information, which can be especially important for more sensitive or compliant work. And for users, only seeing the information that you need to see really simplifies your interface and brings clarity to your tasks. So now I'm going to hand it off to Zach, who's going to walk us through a demo of these features that are available now for all of our Benchling customers. All right, over to you, Zach.
So as Caitlin mentioned, I'm going to showcase these features in actions. You will look at the faster data access, improved storage and permissions, and how they enhance your benchling experience. The best part of everything is that if you have benchling, you have access to these features. You're already enjoying them right now. So to do this, I'll be playing two roles. The first role, I'll play a scientist. I should put on my old lab coat here. And we'll actually learn how we can capture tens of thousands of results or more for a bioreactor run and see how fast benchling can still remain after we capture all that data. Then I'll switch hats and I'll play the role of an IT administrator who's looking to check a user's access permissions. We know that having all this data power is great, but it also needs to be secure. So we'll look at those and how simplified permissions can help there. All right, and with that, let's jump into benchling. So here in benchling, again, I'm playing the role of my scientist at a company. I've just captured over 11,000 data points in my bioreactor run. And I'm concerned that now we have all this data in here. Is this really going to slow down benchling? So what I'll do is I just want to make sure that my team can actually access this data. So if I search for my run, even though I've got 30,000 plus different results in benchling right now, you can see it took a second to get that result. And when I actually take a look at it, there's all my data, all 11,000 plus rows. So the data is available for my downstream analytics team so that they can analyze it and better inform our runs. So we've seen how now benchling's performance is searching is great. What I want to do next is, again, switch back to a different role and talk more about our simplified permissions. Again, it's great that we have all these features. We have the ability to run in performance data at scale. We also need to make sure it's secure. So one of the common concerns we hear from our customers is how do we control who has access to certain projects? And while there are a number of ways to do that, we've recently simplified the process, saving IT administrators a lot of time. So what I'll show you next is how I can check in on a user and look at their permissions for a certain project. And then for that project, instead of me having to tabulate all the different permissions based on who they are, Benchling just takes care of that for me and simplifies the whole process. So over here, I've already selected a user named Virgil. Virgil's an individual contributor on my team, and he works across 4 different teams. Now, each team has different projects and different folders that they access. And again, instead of me having to worry about how his team affects his permissions, I can just come in here to, say, his assay development project. And Benchling gives me a great graphical view of everything that I need to see here. I can see exactly his permissions granted as well as his effective permissions. And Benchling makes it easy for me to visualize and quickly ascertain if I need to make any changes. And if I do need to make changes, I don't have to jump to a different window. Everything is operated right through the same window, making it a seamless experience for me as an IT admin. And this really makes it easy for me to then focus on other aspects of my job that are really critical. So again, in a quick summary, you saw how we can manage handling data, thousands, tens of thousands, even millions, or even billions of results, all on a single platform. And I'm not running a supercomputer, I'm running a laptop. Again, we also saw how Benchling makes it easy for administrators to check permissions on given users and make sure that data is secure across all the different projects.
All right. Thank you, Zach. Great demo. Great demos across the board today. Thanks, team, for all of the work that went into this. We had some good questions come in during the webinar. So we're going to take a moment and do some Q&A answering. A lot of them have been answered, but it's great for us to maybe talk through some of those. And if you have questions, you can still go ahead and add them to the tab. It looks like we got a good 10 minutes here. One of the top upvoted questions was a question about license types and whether or not we have any thoughts of creating new license types for different roles in the organization. We're really focused right now on permissioning and security and making sure that we've got access controls in place and not so much on license types, keeping it simple for our admins. But clearly there is a lot of interest in this one. So I'll definitely be bringing this one back to the team, but no plans as of right now to create different license types. And then the next sort of upvoted question here, I think this one probably is for you, Chris, about bringing an outside collaborator using Overwatch or the studies functionality and bring that together with someone who's using Benchling R&D Cloud.
Yeah, so this is something that I have personally thought about, and I could sit and talk about this for the remainder of the time that we have left, so I won't do that. I think the short way to answer this is say that there's nothing to stop you today giving limited and restricted access to an individual study to a CRO partner. It is possible. Having said that, we would need to have a bit of discussion around how that does impact the license model, and that is something that we are actively considering. I can tell you that a large part of this ambitious roadmap that we have with studies, specifically focusing on the in vivo space, is how we can improve collaboration between CROs and their clients. So we're actively thinking about it. Always interested to hear what suggestions that you might have, so please reach out if you do have any thoughts there.
Looks like a question is in for Chelsea and Ashoka on the demo on update plasmid lot vial volumes and some automatic updating there. Anything you can share about what we've got now and maybe what's on the roadmap, Ashoka?
There we go. Sorry, my microphone's working now. We're actually looking at ways to reduce the number of steps that one has to take. So a lot of it is kind of more transactional, every single action recorded. In the latter half of the year, we're actually looking at how to take predefined actions where we might pull a tube, aliquot it, reduce volume, et cetera, and collapse that into one step. So right now what we have is particularly for where you need more granular tracking, say the volume that you took out of each tube is different. We have our inventory tables, but we're actually looking at cases in which you're doing the same thing every time and making that more automated.
I've seen the prototype. It's cool. Chris, a question about storing images along with text and numerical values in studies.
Yeah, so within every study that you create within studies, you have access to what I can only describe as like a mini file management system. So think of this as like a study dedicated file management system. We don't restrict you to the types of files that you can upload there. So if that is photographs of the animals, if you're tracking different clinical signs, if it's maybe some samples that have been sent off and you've done some histology and you want to attach those, as I say, it's really up to you. We even have a lot of teams that do IBIS-based work, and they'll want to attach some of the images generated from those devices. So entirely possible.
Thanks for that. Another one, while we've got you, sort of, what are the future capabilities coming to the studies platform?
Yeah, so I think it's important to say that with focusing on studies specifically, there is an ambitious roadmap in terms of how we can develop that out over time. And I sort of see that with two parallels. The first being we really want to make sure that we continue to offer a specialized in vivo solution. I think that's important to say, and it's an industry that's been neglected for far too long, and we have a really ambitious roadmap, which I'd be happy to discuss with anyone, because yeah, I guess that the feedback that we get from our users is what helps to inform that. Having said that, it looks like there was another question that I read, which was quite closely aligned to this, where it looks like actually the studies application could be used and applied for other use cases, such as stability studies. we are also thinking about this. So we have had a lot of learnings in terms of how we've built out the studies platform. We are aware that there are use cases and there will be utility that we can provide to other areas. So we're actively looking at how that can work.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely got the next study. I know we're thinking quite a bit about stability studies and studies in general across the Benchling platform. Question, Ashoka, I think, about workflows and update metadata in the registry entries as the materials pass through a pipeline. You see that one?
Yeah, so this is I think one way to think about workflows is they are structured data just like registry entities are structured data. So I think what we've seen traditionally is like pushing things onto samples, which is really about the process. So think of workflows as structured process data. So as materials pass through the pipeline, you can use the workflows system to say, show me, all of the processes that have been done to this molecule at the conceptual level, this batch or this lot. So as something works its way through from, say, material production and material testing, as Zach actually showed with our search system, you can just type in what that thing is, and you can find all the workflows that it's associated with. Or you can just set up dashboards in the product or with some querying language to see that. So we kind of say, take the process data and put that on workflows. You can associate that with the samples, and you can create these kind of progressions of where it's been throughout Benchling.
Thanks, Ashoka.
There were a couple other questions as well. I have it on, for those of you who already have workflows. So this is on today. I linked a help document that can show you how to access the functionality that Chelsea demoed. And then many of you might have registry inventory and notebook, but we kind of see people kind of graduate from the processes they might represent in a notebook into ones that can be structured across teams. So definitely reach out to your Benchling team, and we can talk to you all about how to get you set up with this functionality.
And it came up a few times. Today's webinar is being recorded, and it will be emailed to all of the registered attendees today. So by all means, share with your colleagues, of course. A few more questions, it looks like, on studies. Can samples be tagged to multiple studies, and can we capture IBIS results?
And yeah, to that first question, I am tempted to say no, but I fear that I might not be interpreting the question correctly. If this is saying, well, my assumption and the way that I can describe this is that if you think of a study as the sort of parent entity, and then within that study you can have animals, and within each animal you can collect a number of samples. Each sample that is therefore directly linked to an individual study currently within the studies platform. I'm intrigued by this question, so Susan, please reach out, and if you can provide more clarity, I would be more than happy to dive deeper into that. And on the second question regarding the capturing of IBIS results, yes, we have companies doing that today. So usually for tumor-based work using cell lines with a luminescent marker, so we have ways that can be done.
And Chris, it looks like the last two are also yours. Okay. A calendar feature in studies, as well as some unique identifiers for animals within the platform with something like a chip or an ear punch.
Yeah, so we do have full task management capabilities. So think of this as a way that you can try to better organize the team that are working on each individual in vivo study. Those tasks can be of two types. So we have calendar-based tasks, which happen at a regular frequency. Like, say, for example, I want to weigh the animals every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then we have conditional tasks that can be set up that trigger when a condition is met. So say, for example, I want to start dosing the animals on study day 10. So you can use combinations of those different task types, build up templates, and assign them to different studies. In terms of, do we have documentation for that? There will be help guides. So yeah, please reach out and we can try to get that across to you. And in terms of assigning unique identifiers, yes, near enough every mechanism that can be used to identify an animal we are compatible with. So whether you're lucky and unfortunate enough to use RFID or Rapid Lab or SOMARK, we are compatible out of the box with all of those systems. If you have to use ear punches or tail markings like myself in my own scientific career, and I was having to use Sharpie colored pens on the tails of the mice, then we are also compatible with that.
It's very high tech, very high tech.
Yeah, we had a low budget, unfortunately.
I think we're going to wrap up Q&A, give everyone a couple minutes before they head off to their next meeting. Thank you all so much for joining us today for our inaugural What's New. We can't wait to see you again in a quarter to give you our next update. And thanks so much.